We're now hearing directly from some of the first responders who arrived at the scene of Saturday's explosion. News Channel 3's spent the day with Fire Station 2, and Tori King spoke with the man who actually came up with the plan to save the embryos inside the clinic. She's live near the site of the blast with more on that first-hand account. Tori.
Hi there, Peter. Of course, we were at the intersection of Tachiva and Indian Canyon earlier, but we have moved down closer to the clinic now that the road has opened up. But you can see it is a very different scene than what first responders came to and found themselves in just days ago. Not knowing exactly yet what they were running towards was going to be the site of the largest bombing in Southern California history. Despite the unknown, they charged into the fertility center anyways, facing dangerous conditions, a possible building collapse, and potential additional explosions, all to save families' hopes and dreams that were being stored inside the clinic's lab. I spoke with the fire chief as well as the man who came up with the plan to save the embryos. They say it was a race against time to save them.
The subject had nihilistic ideations, and this was a targeted attack against the IVF facility.
According to the FBI, Guy Edward Bartkiss, the suspect who used a car bomb to blow up a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, intentionally planned to destroy it because of his anti-IVF and nihilistic beliefs. What Bartkiss didn't know was that his plan was going to fail, thanks to several heroes who put their lives on the line to make sure the embryos survived. One of those heroes was Deputy Chief Greg Lyle with the Palm Springs Fire Department, who says he was called in about an hour after the blast went off. He immediately arrived on scene and got in contact with the clinic's doctor, who informed the team about the embryos being stored inside the lab. That's when Lyle, along with the bomb squad, were tasked to come up with a rescue plan.
There was kind of a lot of uncertainty. I didn't feel comfortable in sending my guys in.
At the moment, they weren't sure if the embryos had been affected by the blast, but after careful consideration, they decided to go inside anyways, saying saving these embryos was a non-negotiable.
And so, I said that if anybody was going to go, it was going to be me. The bomb squad technician, he agreed.
They found the room where the cryogenic tanks were being stored and found they hadn't been damaged by the homemade bomb. Lyle says the team realized the tanks were too large to remove, but determined they were stable enough to keep inside. The only problem, the power was out. That's an issue because embryos have to be stored at a certain temperature in order to survive. They're frozen in liquid nitrogen at minus 321 degrees Fahrenheit, preserving them indefinitely. Since they couldn't move the tanks, Lyle said they had to come up with a new plan to get the power back on.
So him and I decided to go in there. At some point, there was conversation where we said, if we don't try, the bad guy wins.
The generator failed, but after a few hours and a few more personnel called in, they managed to restore the power and save the embryos. Lyle says this was one of the most important jobs he's ever worked on, and that since the rescue happened, one of the patients has reached out to thank him. That patient, one of our very own Palm Springs firefighters.
Things started to kind of hit home that like we were involved in something that was pretty special. So it was a team thing. It was not just me. If anything, I was just the one that came up with a crazy plan.
Well, that crazy plan worked, and it managed to keep their dreams of bringing a baby to life alive. Just a wonderful story tonight, and an act that Fire Chief Paul Alvarado is now calling heroic. He also says it makes him proud to see such bravery from his team in the face of unknown danger. So again, you can see we are seeing the very front of the clinic now that the road is back open again. Police officials do say they do want you to avoid this area if you can. Of course, there's some debris in the roads and on the sidewalks. Definitely not good for your tires, but if you do drive through this area, please be careful. We're going to continue tracking the very latest in the investigation, but for now, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.